Good morning, everybody. All right, it is Thursday morning, October the 22nd, 2020, and it's good to be together this morning to get into the Word together, to be encouraged, to be strengthened in unity in God's Word, and to begin our day allowing the Lord to shape our perspective on the day. Every day, starting the day, saying, Lord, I want you to shape the way I see today, the way I see every circumstance, and not just today, but every day going forward, right? And so this morning we're going to be in the Psalms again. Let me say good morning to my mom. I love you. Good morning, Mama. Good morning to Kelly and to Charlene in Texas. Good morning, Charlene. And good morning to Ruti. Shalom. And Kelly Kenfield, and John, and Wendy, and Emma. And if Sutton's around there, I know he's doing school, but good morning to Sutton as well. And to John and Jan in Minnesota, good morning to April, and to Jerry, good morning, Jerry. And to Steve, shalom, Steve, and Elizabeth, and Philip, and Jesse, and Salome, good morning. Good morning to Jerry and Janet in Casa Grande, good morning, you guys. Jeff. Good morning, Jeff, and Ellen, to Ellen and Richard. Good morning, Ellen and Richard. Hope you guys are doing well this morning. And to Tina. Hey, Tina Fowler. Good morning to you. And to Pastor and Sister Martinez. To Tim and Cindy. I know that I see Cindy, like you will click something later in the day, so it's good to see that you're with us live this morning. And good morning to Kathleen and to the Eddies, to Lauren and David and Levi and Valor and Haven and Everett. Good morning to Evelyn and to Sonia Valenzuela, Hola Hermana, and good morning to you as well. All right, let me take a glance here. Anybody else? All right. All right. Well, this morning we're gonna look at a handful of these psalms for the day. Today's the 22nd, so we'll look at Psalm 22, look at Psalm 52, and we're gonna look at Psalm 142, and not necessarily in that order. And these are psalms that really, what you see in the theme here is walking in relationship to God and faithfully in the midst of difficulty, pain, what feels like something that's not going well, things that are unfair, and sometimes you don't get through them quickly. I talked about it a long time ago when we were going through the Psalms that, there are Psalms that you sometimes kind of get a God's eye view, where you get this perspective that looks from above, that sees the whole landscape, right? So that you can see this treacherous area that you have to walk through, but you see it in light of where you came from, and you get a full-on perspective of what's on the other side of that, and you can see it, and you can speak to and recognize what's going on in the overview of it. And then there are times where the psalm takes you down into that difficulty, where you now zoom into walking that terrain. And you don't know, when you're in the midst of it, when you're walking through a desert and you don't know where the next oasis is. You don't know where the next place where you're going to get water and sustenance, and it's lasting forever. It just feels like every turn you're thinking, maybe this turn, maybe last fall I hiked the Grand Canyon, and I did the rim to rim hike, and I remember that first night, the first day as I was hiking, I was anticipating where the stop off place was for the night, and so I kept thinking, I've got to be there soon. And it felt like it was hours of every corner that I would turn, thinking I would see what I was looking for. And my feet were hurting. My toes were already bruised because I had shoes that left this much space. So going down the canyon, and my toes were, hitting it, and so I ended up losing toenails and things like that. It was all good, but it just felt like it was forever. And we see that at times in this with the psalmist here. If there's one thing, and before I kind of jump into it, if there's one thing that I get passionate about, or that I have very strong feelings about at times, it's I get very frustrated and very upset with the distortions within what is often called the prosperity gospel, the health and wealth gospel. And the reason I get so frustrated with it is because it can ultimately help be the cause of someone's faith eroding. If people are believing that walking the life of faith means that every time I face obstacles, that in the moment that I want, that if I have enough faith, that either I wouldn't be facing obstacles, or God's going to come through in that moment. He's going to heal when I want him to heal, in the way that I want him to heal, and he's going to provide in the way that I want him to provide. And so, and there are times when God will allow us to go through a length of time and there are times when the healing doesn't come in the way that we would think that it does. And so for people who are taught and come to believe that that's the way God operates, that he just always comes through in that moment if you have enough faith, and then they hit those obstacles and the Lord doesn't seem to come through in that time, they hit a crisis of faith. And if they haven't been built on the Word of God and built to have a biblical perspective and see the Scriptures and see God through the way that he's revealed himself to us, they can become so discouraged. They become like when Yeshua talks about the seed that gets choked by the cares of this world. They get so discouraged, and they don't have a long-term perspective, and their roots are not deep, and their faith withers away in the midst of the heat, in the midst of the desert, in the midst of the drought, in the midst of the pain. And rather than deepening and growing stronger, they wither away. And when that's the result of being misled and being taught in such a way that really built their faith to be so fragile, it's very damaging. We really have to see God through a biblical perspective. And we see that here in as we look at the Psalms, and we're going to look at Psalm 52 first here. In Psalm 52, it opens up and it says, and it's for the music director, a contemplative song of David, when Doeg the Edomite came and reported to Saul, telling him David went to Ahimelech's house. So you'll recall the story. It's in 1 Samuel 20 verses 1 Samuel 20, 21, and 22. And actually there's a strong connection between Psalm 52 and Psalm 142. So in in 1 Samuel 20, Saul wants to kill David. He wants to get rid of him, and David's just coming to discover this. They're trying to figure out what's going on, and he and Jonathan are trying to figure what's going on. And so Jonathan's like, "Look, I'm going to figure out what's happening, and so you go and hide." And so and I'm going to, I'll shoot arrows and you hide, and if I say, "Hey, to my servant, no, the arrows are closer to me," then you can come back. Everything's fine. If I say, "No, the arrows are further out," then you need to go. You need to run. So it turns out he needs to run. So David is running. And he is running from Saul for his life, he's done nothing wrong. He has been a loyal, faithful servant. He has been loyal to, he is seeking after the Lord. And suddenly this king is jealous, and this king is threatened, and this king is paranoid, and so he runs for his life. And when he goes down, he goes to Ahimelech's house, and while he's there, Ahimelech the priest, and while he's there, he and those that are with him eat from the bread there. And while they're there, this guy Doeg, the Edomite, happens to be there. And so David doesn't want to put Ahimelech in danger, so he continues on. He gets that's where he gets Goliath's sword. I don't want to spend too much time on that, but then he continues on the run. He goes to Gath and to Goliath's hometown, and he actually drools down his beard, pretends to be a crazy man. He's running for his life and he hasn't done anything wrong. God, why are you letting me go through this? He hasn't done anything wrong. And yet he's running for his life, and then he goes to the cave, the cave of Adullam. And so when we look at Psalm 142, that's a psalm from the cave. Well, Saul is asking, where's David? And when Doeg gets back home, he hears Saul saying, where's David? And he goes, oh, I just saw him. He was at Ahimelech's house. And so basically Saul sends Doeg back down there. Doeg goes down and he kills Ahimelech. He kills 85 men. He kills animal. He just slaughters them. So all of a sudden this abhorrent injustice has happened. Ahimelech didn't know that David was actually on the run. David didn't let him know that. He didn't know that David was potentially viewed as a traitor by King Saul. He didn't know anything about it. He is slaughtered, and he's got to be wondering, why is this happening as everybody's dying? This is a wicked thing that's happening. And so that's the context for Psalm 52, when Doeg the Edomite came and reported to Saul, telling him David went to Ahimelech's house. It says in verse 3, why do you brag about evil, mighty men? God's chesed, God's loving kindness is every day. Your tongue plots destruction like a sharp razor working deceit. You love evil instead of good. You love lying rather than speaking right. You love only devouring words, treacherous tongue. God will pull you down forever and snatch you, rip you out of your tent and uproot you from the land of the living. Selah. Then the righteous will see and fear and laugh at him. Here is the man who did not make God his stronghold. Instead, he trusted in his great riches and was strong in his evil desire. But I am like an olive tree flourishing in the house of God. I trust in God's loving kindness forever and ever. I will praise you forever for what you have done. I will hope in your name, for it is good in the presence of your kedoshim. And so what you have is David praying this prayer of trust, this prayer of faith in the face of something horrible that's happened. In the midst of what's going on, that David is worshiping the Lord in the midst of the storm with this bird's eye perspective, with a God's eye perspective, with a long view of things. The thing is, this is early on in with David running. This is when he's first gone on the run. This is just the beginning of the difficulties. David's going to be on the run for a decade, right? For nearly a decade. It's going to be a long, long journey. It's a long time till David becomes king. It's a long time until he's already had the oil poured over his head by Samuel, but he's not going to try to take that for himself. It's not in his heart to exalt himself. But this is early on. This is when the difficulties first begin, and sometimes it's a lot easier early on, even when you hit that first obstacle, to have a perspective that is full of worship and full of praise and exalting the Lord and saying, Lord, I know you're going to go through this, and you you have faith. God's going to handle Doeg the Edomite. God's going to deal with him for what he's done. I'm confident in that. My focus is on the Lord's chesed every day, on his loving kindness, on his justice. And you know what? There's going to come a day when we're going to look and go, see, this is someone who did not put his trust in the Lord, but he trusted in his riches, and he trusted in his might, and he was looking for his own way. But the Lord is good, and the Lord is faithful, and the Lord is just. And there can be this, I know that the Lord will come through. And again, early on when you're going through seasons of difficulty, it's not easy, but it's easier to have that trust and that praise, that worship of faith. We see in Psalm 142 what he prayed while he's in the cave. And again, Psalm 142:1, a contemplative poem of David when he was in the cave, a prayer. He says, I cry aloud with my voice to Adonai. With my voice I seek favor from Adonai. I pour out my complaint before him. Before him I tell him my trouble. When my spirit grows faint within me, you know my path. In the way where I walk, they have hidden a trap from me. So when I'm tired, when I'm weary, and at this point, David, when he went to the cave, by the way, that's when all these other people came, like 400 David's mighty men who were all the running for their own lives. They were the throwaways. They weren't, we call them David's mighty men, but I mean, they were the malcontents. They were the ones, things weren't going well for them under Saul, and now they come and they are putting their allegiance toward David, but David's going to continue to point them toward the Lord. He's going to continue to walk in the way of the Lord. There are going to become opportunities. There will come opportunities when he can exalt himself and take the plan into his own hands, and yet he continues to trust in the Lord. A couple of times where he could have killed Saul, and he says, I'm not trying to kill you. Don't you see? I'm not trying to kill you. And that's the example he continues to set before these malcontents, not one of rebellion, but one of submission and trust in the Lord. And so he says to the Lord, when my heart grows faint here, I know that you know the path. I know that you see the traps. You see what I can't see. And so my eyes are on you. I'm walking behind you. I'm listening for you. I'm walking with you. Verse 5, look at my right hand and see. No one cares about me. I have no refuge. No one cares for my soul. I have cried out to you, Adonai. I said, you are my refuge, my portion in the land of the living. Hear my cry. Listen to my cry, for I am brought very low. Rescue me from my persecutors, for they are too strong for me. Bring my soul out of prison, so I may praise your name. The righteous will triumph through me, for you will reward me. And so Psalm 142 would have taken place after everything with Doeg. Not long after. It's while he's in the cave. But it's David is not understanding what's going on. Why? Where are you, Lord? And but he is bringing all of his frustration, all of his pain, all of his confusion to the Lord, and then declaring with trust, with faith, Lord, I know that you will bring my soul out of prison so I may praise your name, right? And I know the righteous will triumph. That through me, Lord, that you're going to give us victory. Righteousness is going to triumph, for you will reward me. I am confident that you will reward me, right? So we have confidence that the Lord will come through. We have confidence, we have hope, an assurance that the Lord will come through, but sometimes it feels like it's taking a long time. Sometimes it's going a lot longer than you expected. I think about it, the back end of, if you go to, Antonio, if you could go to Hebrews 10, and Hebrews 10:23. Hebrews 10:23 and following, it says, let us hold fast the unwavering confession of hope, for he who promised is faithful. He's like, let's hang on, cling to an unwavering. You speak the same word. Confession is homologia. It's the same word I'm going to say, the same word that he said, a word of assurance, of hope, because the one who promised is faithful. And this is taking a long time. He says, let's consider how to stir one another up to love and good deeds. And don't neglect our own meetings, as is the habit of some, but encourage one another, and all the more as you see the day approaching. Continue to encourage one another. Continue to remember that, look, what's in front of us isn't always going to be easy. There may be, we're in a lengthy season that's a lot longer than we anticipated, right? And yet there come moments where we go, is it almost over? And you can feel like when it keeps going and keeps going and keeps going, and it could even things could get worse than you anticipated. That's not me speaking negative. That's not me not having faith. That's me saying, no matter what, we've got to hold on and keep our eyes fixed on him, to hold to that unwavering confession of hope. Because he who promised is faithful, and to spur one another on, to challenge one another, to say, come on, get up. We can do this. Don't be discouraged. Don't grow weary in doing well. If you continue, skip ahead to verse 32 in Hebrews 10. It says, remember the former days after you were enlightened. You endured a great struggle with sufferings. Right, early on, you suffered. Remember early on, it's like David, the dog, facing Doeg, dealing with this whole thing. Early on in his journey to the place that God had promised. God had promised he was going to be the king. And he wasn't going to make that happen, but he couldn't have anticipated it was going to be a decade on the run for his life, right? But early on, he's expressing hope. And it says here, early on, when you were enlightened, you endured a great struggle with sufferings. Sometimes you were publicly exposed to abuses and afflictions. And other times you became partners with those who were treated this way. Like early on, you saw other people suffering for their faith, and you suffered with them. You willingly came alongside them to stand with them so they wouldn't be alone. Verse 34, for you suffered along with the prisoners and joyfully accepted the plundering of your possessions, knowing that you have for yourselves a better and lasting possession. Like early on, you knew you were going to get through this. You were holding to that hope. He continues, therefore, do not lose your boldness, which has great reward. For you need perseverance. You got to press through. You got to go through this long journey through the wilderness. This long journey when perhaps God's not answering your prayer in the way you want him to answer, in the way that you want him to answer, as quickly as you want him to answer. You have to persevere so that after you have done the will of God, you may receive the promise. He says, for yet in a very little while the coming one will come, and he will not delay. But my righteous one, the righteous one, shall live by emunah, by faith. And if he shrinks back, my soul takes no pleasure in him. We're not the shrinking back ones, right? And David didn't shrink back, but you hit moments in the long journey of walking in faith where you begin to be discouraged. And what we see in Psalm 22, is that discouragement. It's a Psalm of David. It's obviously a psalm we're familiar with. It's probably the most famous of the lament psalms because it's Yeshua cried this out from the cross. Yeshua cried out in full identification with suffering, with our suffering, in his humanity even. My God, why have you forsaken me? Why? There's it's Lama, why? Where are you, Lord? My God, why have you forsaken me? Distant from my salvation are the words of my groaning. Like my cries are there, but it doesn't seem like my rescue is close. My rescue seems like it's a long way from my words. Continues, oh my God, I cried out by day. No answer. You did not answer. By night, but there was no rest for me, no stillness. I cried out, and the nights were long, and the days there was no rescue. But you, verse 4, and it's an emphatic, and you, but you, va'ata, but you are holy, enthroned on the praises, seated upon the praises of Israel. And then in the midst of, God, you're not answering. Where are you? Why have you forsaken me? And then the psalmist recalls God's faithfulness. He remembers, kind of looking to get that bird's eye view, to remembers God's faithfulness in the past. Lord, in you our fathers trusted. They put their trust, they put their confidence. Batach, they put their confidence. They were confident, they trusted, and you delivered them. They cried to you and were delivered. In you they trusted, and they were not disappointed. They were not ashamed. Now, what can happen is, so the psalmist here, David is the psalmist here, and he's praying this. We don't know specifically when this one was written. My suspicion is it's long after that early cave prayer. This is somewhere well along the line. And you know, when we read the story of David, when we read about his time through this wilderness, we can read it in a handful of chapters. You can read it in a day, right? In a few hours. You can read the whole thing. And you can look and see, hey, David cried out to the Lord and God rescued him. And David here is remembering, hey, our fathers cried out to you and you answered them. What he's not recognizing is, yeah, those are things he could read in a day as well. But there were times where, for our fathers, that the answer to their prayer was not as quickly as we would have hoped it would be. Whether it was when they were in Egypt for generations, or when they were wandering through the wilderness as a result of their own sin, but still, sometimes the answers didn't come as quickly. And we lose that perspective. We don't see that there was an endurance, a perseverance that was required. To dig in, hang on, persevere. Don't be discouraged when the darkness seems to get darker while you're praying for God to intervene. Where are you, God? Why did you answered the prayers of our fathers? You answered the prayers of David. Why don't you answer my prayer? It says, in you our fathers trusted. They were not disappointed. Verse 7 says, here it's worded as a question. It's not necessarily a question. It says, I, and it's an emphatic I am a worm. I'm a maggot is the word. The language could be worm or maggot. I'm a worm, not a man. And it uses for man, it's ish, which can be I'm nobody. I'm not significant. I'm a maggot. I'm not significant. I'm the scorn of men. I'm a source of ridicule. People mock me. I'm despised of humanity. I'm a scorn of Adam, of humanity. Despised by people. All who see me, they mock me. They taunt me. They curl their lips, shaking their head. Let rely on Adonai. Let Adonai deliver him. Let him rescue him since he delights in Adonai. Oh, you love God so much. Where is your God? When it looks like the wicked or those who are not walking in faithfulness to the Lord, not walking in faithfulness to his word, who are not laying down their lives, they're not dying to their flesh, and it seems like everything's going well for them, and I don't get it. Where are you, Lord? Why is this? What's going on? And then they're like, oh yeah, that's your trust in the Lord? Let God, okay, well, let God rescue you. Let God. What do you do in that moment? Do you grow weary? Do you give up? Do you say, well, God didn't answer me. If God were real, he'd answer me now. Do we serve God because we still expect him to do things in our way, on our timeline, and we want God to conform himself to us? Or are we serving God in a way that will allow us to be conformed to him, to be shaped into his likeness, which often is through he will allow us to go through seasons that require perseverance in increasing measure.
I'm not sure I understand.
Siri was, I guess, trying to answer all my questions. They mock him, and then he's listening to their taunts, but then he draws back again and he goes, but you know what, Lord, yet you brought me out of the womb. You made me secure, and it uses that word batak. You made me trust, confidence at my mother's breasts. From the womb, from birth, I was cast on you. I was tashlich. I was cast. I was flung on you. I was thrown into your arms for as long as I can remember. From my mother's womb, you have been Eli, my God. Right? So he opens with Eli, Eli, my God, and he says, from my mother's womb, you are my God. Be not far from me, because trouble is approaching. Like, I need you close. Be near, because trouble is near. Anxiety is near, and the word tzara has to do with the tightening, the narrowing of the straits, the anxiety. Be near to me, for trouble is near. Be not far, for trouble is near. There is no one to help. And now he's being surrounded. Many bulls have surrounded me. Strong bulls of Bashan encircled me. They open their mouths against me like a tearing, roaring lion. And then he begins to describe his emotional state, the experience, poetically describing this experience. I am poured out like water. All my bones are disjointed. I can't fight. My heart is like wax melting in my innards. I am overwhelmed. He's paralyzed by fear. He's stress paralyzed. He doesn't have the strength to fight. He needs God now. I need you. Be near to me, because things are tightening and I don't have the strength. My strength is dried up like a clay pot. It's just shriveled up. I don't have it. It's gone. My tongue clings to my jaws. You lay me in the dust of death, for dogs have surrounded me. A band of evildoers has closed in on me. They pierce my hands and my feet, and it can actually be like they're like a lion. Like a lion, like gnaw is the language can mean there too. Like gnawing at my hands and feet. I'm laying there, and they're just playfully devouring me. I can count all my bones. They stare, they gape at me. So what you have, even in that picture with the psalmist, obviously there's prophetic. Yeshua identifies with this, and we can see so much of this pointing to Yeshua, and it's put there prophetically, but that doesn't take away from the reality of what David is experiencing. And he doesn't realize that he is speaking prophetically when he's putting this down necessarily. But the Holy Spirit does. The Holy Spirit can speak through us in ways that we don't even realize. But he says, I can count all my bones. And so there's this picture of this has been going on for a long time. If you can count your bones, you've been wasting away. This hasn't been a short-term suffering. This hasn't been a quick thing. God, I've been dealing with this pain for a long time. God, I've been dealing with this struggle for a long time. When it first started, I thought I'd have the strength, but now I am wasted away. I'm done. I need you. I don't know if you've experienced that. I can't say with any level of I haven't, and I to that degree. But I know people who love the Lord, walk with the Lord, that have had to endure a level of pain and suffering over a long period of time. Calling on the Lord. They love the Lord. And it's like, God, I count all my bones. Where are you? And the question for all of us is, when we hit that moment, do we abandon God? Saying, well, it feels like he's abandoned me, so I'm done. Or do we still call on him and look to him and pour out our hearts to him? That's what David's doing here. He's calling out to the Lord. He's not speaking against the Lord to others. He's calling out to the Lord. I can count all my bones. They stare, they gape at me. They divide my clothes among them and cast lots for my garment. So what you have here, obviously, again, this is prophetic. But for David himself, it's this idea of what's being expressed poetically is, I'm so useless. I'm laying here. I'm a dead man. I may not even be dead, but I'm like a dead man, where I'm considered dead, where they're like, okay, what are we going to do with his clothes? Who wants them? Like I'm already dead. I can count my bones. They think I'm dead. They think I'm done for. And they're gambling on my clothes, casting lots for my clothes, as though I'm done, as though it's over. So then he calls on, but you, Lord, be not far off. O my strength, come quickly to my aid. Deliver my soul from the sword, my only one from the power of the dog. Save me from the lion's mouth, from the horns of the wild oxen. Rescue me. I will declare your name to my brothers. I will praise you in the midst of the congregation. So now there is deliverance. Now we get the other side of it. There's a point at which God comes through. We don't know what it looks like. We don't know. We have a sense with David, but again, it's a long way to that. And he says, now, having come through that, now that David, even as king, is able to say, you who fear Adonai, praise him. Jacob's descendants glorify him. Revere him, all you seed of Israel. For he has not despised or disdained the suffering of the lowly one. Like I thought he would. But he was with me all the time. I thought it felt like he had abandoned me. I said, where are you? Why have you forsaken me? Why have you forsaken me? He hadn't forsaken me. He recognizes now that he's no longer in the midst of it. Now that he has come through it, he can look back with a perspective that says, you were there. You have not despised or disdained the suffering of the lowly one. You have not, nor has he hidden his face from him. But when he cried to him, he heard. From you, Lord, is my praise in the great assembly. I will fulfill my vows before those who fear him. Let the poor eat and be satisfied. Let them who seek after him praise Adonai. May your hearts live forever. All the ends of the earth will remember and turn to Adonai. All the families of the nations will bow down before you. So now, prophetically, we see resurrection, right? He was dead. He was a dead man laying there, being picked at, his clothes. But now there's life. And with life, there's now resurrection, that all the families of the earth, and through the king of Israel, through King David and the son of David, all the families of the earth bow down before you, for the kingdom belongs to Adonai, and he rules over the nations. All the rich of the earth will feast and worship. Everyone who goes down to the dust will kneel before him, even the one who could not keep his own soul alive. His posterity will serve him, telling the next generation about my Lord. They will come and declare his righteousness to a people yet to be born, because he has done it. Right? So there's this assurance. There is, when you get to the end of this psalm, there is, he has done it. It's done. It's finished. There is an assurance that the one who called us is faithful, right? Hebrews 11, he who called, 23. Hebrews 11:23 again, let's hold fast the unwavering confession of hope. No matter how dark it is, no matter how long it's going on, no matter that it feels like, my God, why have you forsaken me? We know that there will be another side to this. We don't know the when, we don't know how. So Lord, give us the strength to endure. Encourage one another to endure, to persevere through it. Don't stop encouraging one another. Don't stop. Every day we're gathering together, being built in his word, strengthened in his word, so that we can stand. And after having done all, that we can stand, that we can be clothed in the armor of God, that we can be clothed in his righteousness, and that we will stand, and we will not grow faint. We will not grow weary. We will endure, holding on to what we can't see, right? Faith, trust, batach, that confidence that we have, it's the evidence of things not seen, right? It's the evidence of what we can't see. It's the substance of what we can't see. So let's hold fast the unwavering confession of hope, for he who promised is faithful. Amen? All right. Well, let me say good morning to anybody else who may have joined us. Let's see here. I see that we've got Lori and Pat. Good morning to Lori and Pat. Let's see if anybody else said. Ron and Amy. Good morning, Ron and Amy. Love you guys. Hope you're doing well. We've got Mignon and Rashad. Good morning to you. And good morning to April. And let's see here. Did I say good morning to, April and Jerry? And then, let me look here. Good morning to Jenny. Good morning, Jenny. And to the Campos family. And good morning. I don't know if they're still watching, but Zio Cataldo, good morning. I love you. Good morning to my youth pastor, Brother Larry. Good morning. You're looking good, by the way. I saw all that weight you've lost. You're looking fantastic. And good morning to Sherry Turner. Good morning. Known the Turners, known her since I was 7 years old. And I hope you guys are doing well. Love you all. All right. Well, may the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Shalom, shalom. Have a beautiful day.